Good afternoon and welcome to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. Frank Granito and Donald Eng in studio today on Tuesday, January 24th. Don, good to have you back. Obviously not a lot of action going on yesterday. Because of the weather, we saw mostly cancellations throughout the state.
Yeah, well, you know, there was a hazardous drizzle throughout some parts of the state. Actually, I'm being facetious. It did get some pretty serious storms up along the border and along the coast in some places.
A lot of ice fall, and that really made life difficult. We saw a couple schools with cancellations today, but as our own Josh Fisher said, it was a nor'easter, not a Sharknado. We should have been more prepared for this.
Yes, as Josh also said, the first time the Northeast has ever gotten a nor'easter.
But let's get right to it, and we're going to welcome in Dave Rudin now of the Rudin Report. Just published his mid-season review here for the FCIAC boys basketball schedule. He'll also be covering Wilton and Darien tonight, the second 1-versus-2 matchup from the Z in the past week. Dave, thanks for joining the program. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing well. Hey, Frank, Donald, how you guys doing?
Good here, Dave. And let's go back to Thursday last week. We actually saw Wilton and Ward in the last matchup of undefeated programs in the FCIAC. And I want to get your first thoughts on that game. Who were the players that really jumped out and impressed you there in that Wilton win?
Well, I think the biggest thing right off the bat was Wilton's depth, which we all knew is one of its biggest strengths. And we saw that come into play, especially in the second half, when Wilton was down 10 points and just really erupted. And some of the expected stars, Matt Cronenberg, Jack Williams, you know, they did their thing. But really, guys like Kyle Matala, Robbie Herman, those guys really, in different spurts in the second half, really took over. And I think that's one of Wilton's biggest attributes and one edge it really has over the rest of the league. Is Joel Jariak can go 10 deep and bring quality players off the bench. So that was probably my first impression. And number two, I still think Fairfield Ward is a very legit team. And some people think, and I can't dispute it, that they have the best starting five in the league. The Brancato brothers, Sean Conway, Marcel Parsons. Parsons really got off to a great start and hit 4 threes in the first half. But Wilton's defense did a good job on them. The one thing I'm curious with the Mustangs is their defense. They're going to have to play a full 32 minutes, which they didn't do against Wilton, if they're going to win the title.
Their defense, obviously, but their depth is a major issue, Dave. Only 7 players really got on the floor for the Mustangs in that game, and there were 6 total who scored for Fairfield Ward. What surprised me the most, or what I was most impressed with, I should say, about that Wilton depth was really the first half when the scorers and those starters, the seniors, weren't scoring for Wilton, and you saw those bench players. It was a 10-point game at halftime, but they still kept them in it and allowed it to be a game so Wilton could make that comeback in the second half. But I think that's the biggest difference right now between Wilton and Ward, who have separated themselves, that Wilton can go 10 deep, and Fairfield Ward might have the strongest starting five, but is looking for a 6th or 7th player that can really give them big minutes off the bench.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. And because the league right now, a lot of teams don't go deep, Ward is going to get away with that, especially in an up-tempo game. They play at a very fast pace. Very few teams do. But they went up for the first time against a team that likes to run with them, and they possibly got tired in the second half. So they're going to be able to get away with it probably against 15 other teams in the league on most nights. But that's going to be a concern if they get a chance to play Wilton again in the playoffs.
Now, Dave, Don here. I'm just looking at your mid-season report card here at therudinreport.com, and I see that you have Ward and Wilton, actually Wilton and Ward in that order, 1-2, in your predicted order of finish. Danbury, 3. Now, Frank and I have been calling Danbury the mystery team all year. What will they be if they can ever get healthy? Would a healthy Danbury team change that predicted order of finish?
I don't think it would change the order of finish, but I think I have a hard time right now as much balancing a lot of teams that I really think could win 3 games and win a championship. But I do think if Marcus Fox comes back for Danbury, I think they jump into the mix with Wilton and Ward because he provides an element that a lot of teams don't have with an inside game, and he would create matchup problems both for Wilton and Ward because they're smaller teams. So they're sort of mystery team. I'd call them the Astros team right now. They're playing very well, and I credit to Casey Bach for keeping the team high up in the standings without the best player. Fox is the trump card. If he comes back, I think Danbury's very much in the mix to win a title. And if he's injured the rest of the year, can't go 100%, I think they're going to fall a little short.
Now, Dave, let's subtract those top 3 teams, and we'll take Darien and Trumbull out as well. Assuming they're the top 5 teams in the conference, the way it sits right now, who out of that 6, 7, and 8 spot do you think is a team that could surprise everyone and make a run? Similar to what we saw last year with West Hill, who was that 6th seed and ran those 3 games on their way to a championship. Is there a team right now kind of on the cusp or on the bubble that could really do some damage in the FCX tournament?
The one team, and to me they've been the biggest underachievers so far this year, the one team I could see doing it is Trinity Catholic. I really thought Trinity Catholic at the beginning of the year was going to win the league because they have the Dimitri Moyes and Contavio Dutrell. Their athleticism, I thought they were going to give a lot of trouble to other teams, and they still can. The one thing, and I've seen Trinity play once up in Ridgefield, and I've been monitoring them closely, is their chemistry just really, really has been off. They really don't play cohesively. And that's been an issue right now. If they can get on the same page, that's the one team I could really see emerging from the pack. I think they have the talent to play with a lot of these teams, but they've underachieved so far.
And looking at the league, Dave, a lot of people have said that the FCAC is down this year, and I would ask you, is that necessarily a bad thing, though? Whereas you've got new teams at the top, and it's a very wide-open league. Of the top 4 teams right now, Wilton, Ward, Darien, and Trumbull, they only have 1 FCX championship amongst those 4 programs. I think, if anything, this is really bringing a new, you don't want to say respect, but it's intriguing, it's piquing interest right now back in a league that for so long was dominated by the city schools.
But certainly you got some new players at the table right now. And so from that standpoint, I think it certainly adds interest to it. And there are a lot of schools right now that think they have a chance to go all the way. So it's a different dynamic. Basketball's gone down, and it's not just in Fairfield County. And it kind of bothers me when I write about this because I want to be honest, but the last thing I ever want to do is bash high school students. So I've sort of been trying to walk on eggs talking about it, but basketball has been down for the last 2 or 3 years. I think it's been down statewide, so it's not a phenomenon that just goes to Fairfield County. And I'm not sure what the reason is. Everybody has different opinions on that, but the trade-off has been that there's been a lot of balance, a lot of parity these last couple of years. And I think it's kind of cool that you have a Trumbull, that you have a Darien, which has been the dominant sports program maybe in the state the last year or 2, and now all of a sudden, they think they have a real chance to go all the way, and I'll be seeing them for the first time tonight, and maybe they do. I'm interested to check them out, but it is kind of nice to see these suburban schools, or I'll just break it down into schools that maybe don't have the heralded programs or the heralded past as other programs. It's kind of nice seeing them being part of the party right now.
Dave, last question from me here. You'd mentioned that some of these schools are kind of getting to an upper level of play, not one of the traditional programs. But now statewide, they compete in Class L and Class LL, where there are some traditional powers right at the top of the rankings right now. Do you see any FCAC teams potentially being like a dangerous team when the state tournament comes around?
I'm gonna defer to somebody who knows the entire state and who I saw, and I won't say who it is, though anybody who really follows basketball probably can figure it out just because for the reasons what he said. But he was at the Wilton Ward game, and I asked him if he could play, either of those teams could really play with the top teams in the state, and he said he thought both of the teams were a notch below. So I don't see the rest of the state, so it's really hard for me to say. I go by what I hear when I vote in the polls or talking to other writers, so it's kind of hard for me with my own eye test to give you a real definitive answer on that. But the person I spoke to probably knows high school basketball, knows the state better than anybody I can think of, and he thought that Wilton and Ward was a notch below maybe on the second level of teams, not the top level.
Dave, last question here. You mentioned you'll be covering the Wilton-Darien game tonight. Your first look at the Blue Wave, what are you expecting from that group? Obviously, they'll have a size advantage against the Warriors, but where do they match up now in the first of two very tough tests this week? They'll get Fairfield Ward now on Thursday after this.
You know, I'm kind of curious. I've heard there's so many different opinions on Darien. It's interesting, and I actually, for my mid-season report, polled coaches and asked them who they thought were on the All-FCAC team, and I got from 10 coaches 5 different players, and Alex Preston, their center, 6'8" center, actually 2 coaches thought he was the player of the year right now. He certainly is going to provide a lot of matchup problems for Wilton. The problem is who's going to control the tempo. If Wilton has Darien running up and down the court, I don't think they have the depth to handle to stay with Wilton, and in that case, it minimizes Preston's dominance. If Darien can turn it into more of a half-court game, I don't know how Wilton's going to stop Preston. So a lot of it's going to be on who dictates tempo and how Wilton's defense is going to do in terms of if they have to play in a half-court game, what will they do? Wilton's got a very, very good defensive team. That's probably the one thing that we haven't talked about. Anybody has. We're all looking at their depth, but they play really good defense. And they also, this probably is Joel's best rebounding team in the 5 years he's done that.
And they're doing
Just as a quick added note, it's kind of interesting because we're talking about all the different teams and the new players in there. And one FCAC coach said to me, and it's really true, Joel, what he's done, he's changed the culture of basketball at Wilton. I mean, basketball is a big deal at Wilton right now in these 5 years here, and I think we're not looking at something that's going to just be an aberration for a few years. I think this could have some staying power.
Oh, and he's made an expectation now that they're going to be in at least the conference semifinals with their eyes on that first conference championship. And you're right, this is a program that no more than 5 years ago hadn't appeared in a conference semifinal. So the Warriors trending up. Dave, thanks so much for taking time with us. Check out the boys basketball midseason report on therudinreport.com right now. We look forward to hearing how that Darien and Wilton game goes tonight, Dave.
Thanks. Thanks for having me on. You guys have a good time tonight with Stanford Greenwich girls. That'll be a good game, and I'll see you all soon.
Thanks again, Dave. We'll talk to you soon. Good stuff, Don, and it's great right now. FCAC basketball is very wide open, and it's very competitive across the board.
Yeah, it's almost like the NFL dream, right? On any given Tuesday or Friday, it could happen. As Dave was mentioning, with matching up with some of the other schools in the state. If those threes are falling, who knows?
Should be a lot of fun. Let's take our first break. When Don and I get back, we'll look at some of the action that did continue on last night. It was not postponed because of weather. That coming up next on Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network.
Get a fresh start to the new year by shaking up your meal routine. Walter Stewart's Market is your local source for a delicious selection of fresh and convenient salad shakers, like Southwest salad with chicken, Cobb with organic chicken, Power Vegan with fruit and quinoa, Greek salad with tabbouleh, and grilled shrimp with hominy. Grab one from our salad case or order from our deli today. Walter Stewart's Market, 229 Elm Street, New Canaan, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com. Are you looking for new opportunity this year? How does growing a business with unlimited income potential sound? Christy Kinsman is a local entrepreneur building a global health and wellness business in Fairfield County. Offering cutting-edge anti-aging skincare, all botanically based and paraben-free, and a complete vegan, clean-eating nutritional plan, Christy's looking for business partners that can help get others healthier while taking advantage of an untapped market. Take that first step to freedom from the 9-to-5 grind by learning more about the products and our mentorship program. Contact Christy at thelittlehouseshop@yahoo.com.
While there's still a bite out on the water, most anglers have decided to stow the gear for the winter. Just because Mother Nature isn't cooperating doesn't mean you can't see the latest models of all your favorite gear. With 2 convenient locations, it couldn't be easier to get your fix of summer. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, or on the web, docshop.com.
Whether you're looking for the freshest seafood, the perfect steak, or want to share delicious appetizers, look no further than the Stone's Throw in Seymour. Chef Peter Hom has more than 30 years of experience creating original recipes in his American eclectic style. Our dishes are made from scratch with fresh, local ingredients that pair perfectly with a seasonal craft beer, a signature cocktail, or your favorite wine. When you visit our Riverside location, you'll feel like you're on vacation when you're only a stone's throw from home. Visit us on Roosevelt Drive in Seymour or at StonesThrowCT.com.
It's all about meeting goals this year, and Trinity CrossFit of Ridgefield has experienced trainers, top-of-the-line equipment, and a newly renovated space to help get you there. Offering more classes per day than any other CrossFit gyms in the area, we cater to all fitness levels. Our coaches have a combined 10 years of experience in CrossFit, and as competitors themselves, Trinity coaches can get you ready for competition in 2017. Visit our convenient location on Route 7, Danbury Road, or find out more at trinitycrossfit.com.
If you're watching this broadcast, you're not alone. The HAN network is available for 200,000 Connecticut cable customers on the Frontier Network, and we've also reached 1.7 million viewers on our free live streaming sports, news, and entertainment broadcasts. To reach our rapidly growing audience, contact Advertising Director Jessica Murrin at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
Welcome back to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. Thank you again to Dave Rudin of the Rudin Report coming on to talk with us. And Don, again, we were talking off the air. It's really the depth of the state right now, basketball-wise, that I think is down, because you're still seeing top-tier talent being produced, as our director Mike Suppy said, but you saw a lot of teams that used to be able to run 8, 9 deep, and they are not as deep now throughout the state.
Right, and in some cases, I think you made a very good point. Like some of the traditional schools, I mean, well, in the FCAC, you're looking at a St. Joseph that's a little bit down from where they've been for a long time. Also, in Bridgeport, the city schools, the Harding and Centrals are both down. Bassett's actually having a very good year, but those other two schools are down. So across the state, I don't know that basketball is necessarily down as much as some of the bigger name programs are struggling a little bit more than we're used to seeing.
I think that Wilton has a legit chance in L to do some damage. They could make a little bit of a run, especially having lost in the first round last year. That's going to leave a bitter taste in their mouths. Fairfield Ward has got to do a lot based on what we saw Thursday to find themselves in the mix and competing with a Hill House or a West Haven. But looking at action that was around the state yesterday with many cancellations going on, Wilton and Norwalk McMahon in boys ice hockey played through the ice and rain in a battle for the Sono Ice Houses. The two teams that call it home tried to figure out who was the king. It was a home game for Norwalk McMahon, and they used that to their advantage. Kevin Remsen scored on the first shot of the game in what was a back and forth tilt that ended 6-3 in favor of the Norwalk schools. Remsen would finish the game with 3 points, a goal and 2 assists, while his line mate Quinn Sander was the game's first star, scoring a hat trick and adding a 4th point, assisting on that Remsen goal. Dylan Persons and James Breuer both scored for Norwalk McMahon, and David Lamb needed to only make 11 saves to pick up the win. For the Warriors, the story of the game had to be goalie Chris Randolph making 31 saves, but still coming away with a loss. Alex Beigen, Peter Koch, and Brandon Janssen were the goal scorers for Wilton. Norwalk hosts Sheehan next on Wednesday afternoon. Wilton will travel to first place Ridgefield to renew their rivalry with the Tigers. And Don, another example of a goalie having to carry the weight for his team, but finally the team with 30-plus shots can come away with a victory.
Yeah, it seems like for the last couple of weeks we've been reporting on teams that outshoot their opponents, 39-14 and lose. In this case, obviously the team that appeared to control play for most of the game did come away with the win. And wow, doesn't get any easier for Wilton, does it?
No, that's a real tough game, and it's a well-rested Ridgefield team having their game against New Canaan canceled yesterday, especially if you could have caught the Tigers coming off a tough battle with the Rams. For Norwalk now, 1-2-1 in the conference, 3 points. They're 4-6-1 on the year. They look really good compared to some of those D3 schools in that tournament they'll be competing with. Obviously, the FCAC is always going to be tough for them, a D3 school competing with those D1 top-tier programs, but Norwalk has been impressive so far this year.
No, when they play against teams that are kind of in the same situation as they are, when they play against the co-ops, when they play against other Division III schools, they've looked very good. I mean, it's going to be one of those This could be one of those years, almost like when you see it, a lot of the times you see it in the Division I playoffs, where a team comes into the playoffs with a record of about 12-10, and then they go on a roll and they win the championship. That could be what we're looking at with Norwalk.
Fairfield off to a very slow start in the conference. So Norwalk right now finding themselves scrapping it out with Trumbull, Stanford, West Hill, and Fairfield for that 6th and final playoff spot in the FCX. Something to keep an eye on. But again, goalie only had to make 11 saves. They saw 15 shots total. The defense has been very strong, and they're scoring in bunches right now. So a team to keep an eye on who could find their way into that final playoff spot. And that would be very, very big for this Norwalk McMahon program to sneak into the FCX tournament.
Yeah, well, it certainly would be. I mean, 3 goals on 14, 15 shots is a bit worrisome. But on the other hand, you also have the goalie standing by himself for a lot of the time when your team is controlling play as much as they were there. So, it'll be it should be a good rest of the season. We'll see what happens. We did question whether Fairfield, how would they adapt to Division I, and they've struggled a little bit since they've gotten into the FCX schedule. We'll see what happens when they get to the actual tournament.
Should be a lot of fun down the stretch. We will have hockey back on the air next week, not too long from now. But let's take our second and final break here on Nutmeg Sports. When Don and I get back, we will preview our high school hoops night game as we get ready for a state championship rematch between the Stanford Black Knights and the Greenwich Cardinals. That coming up after this on Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network.
Have a sports injury or slip and fall that needs immediate care? Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care gives you direct access to an orthopedic specialist fast, without an appointment. Basketball, hockey, skiing, whatever the sports injury is, sprain or fracture, Coastal Ortho Express can help. Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care open Monday through Saturday, now in 2 locations. The iPark Building at 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk and 36 Old Kings Highway South in Darien. Or go to coastalorthoexpress.com, like them on Facebook.
Are you ready for winter? Ski and Sport has everything you need to be fully outfitted for the season. A family-owned and operated business with over 40 years of experience, Ski and Sport's 3 convenient locations in Fairfield County offer top-quality, high-fashion ski and winter wear. In addition to clothing for men, women, and children, we also offer seasonal rentals for the entire family. Stop by our stores on 1 Ethan Allen Highway in Richfield, 877 Post Road East in Westport, and at 110 Main Street in New Canaan, or visit us at skiandsport.net.
Discover a world of wellness in the heart of New Canaan. Halo Studios, New Canaan's first collaborative wellness center, offers you the freedom to choose from the best and latest health, fitness, and wellness options. Inside Halo Studios, you'll find all the wellness experts you need at places like Halo Fitness, Priority Wellness, and Sama Yoga Center. Come by for a free wellness assessment, open 7 days a week at 45 Grove Street. For more information, visit halostudios.com or call 203-594-9909. Want to reach new heights in your fitness and health goals? Find what you're looking for at Elevation Spin, Train, and TRX in Georgetown, Connecticut. Elevation Spin gives you purposeful spinning workouts inspired by the road. We encourage monitoring of heart rate and energy zones. Elevation also offers customized personal training with dedicated professionals passionate about helping you reach your goals. And let us motivate you to reach greater performance and functionality with TRX suspension training, using your own body weight for an incredible dynamic workout. Located at 4 Old Mill Road in Georgetown, call Elevation at 203-544-9503 or visit ElevationSpinTrainTRX.com for more.
I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a television presenter. And I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune in to Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN Network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office.
Back on the HAN Network, Frank Granito and Donald Eng in studio as we get set for our high school hoops night coverage now. From Stanford High tonight, it's a Class L Girls Basketball Championship rematch featuring the Stanford Black Knights and the Greenwich Cardinals. Greenwich comes in having lost 2 in a row now, Don, after a strong start to the year. Both teams tied for 4th in the conference, and This a really important game in terms of positioning themselves now, moving towards the end of the schedule with a very tight middle of the pack there in the FCX standings.
Yeah, there are 3 teams right now tied for 4th place in the FCX, and 2 of them we see tonight: Greenwich, Norwalk, Stamford, all with records of 6-2. Trumbull, of course, leading the way with a record of 9-0. Ridgefield, a half game back there at 8-1. And what's fascinating is, as we were saying the other day, the strength of the FCAC appears to be in the West this time. We could see 6 Western teams in that 8-team FCAC playoff.
That is the way the standings are trending right now. Danbury is a half game ahead of that 3-way tie at a record of 7-2, and then lurking right behind Staples and Fairfield Ward, both with 3 conferences in the 3 losses in the conference. So very tight there. You go back to that championship game, Stanford wins 50-45. And what we saw earlier this year when Stanford played Ridgefield, it happened to be on their ring ceremony night. This was a Black Knights team then that was still trying to find their identity, had to replace a lot of key parts, and they're trending up since then, have started to figure it out. Mark Guerin, their center, as Dave Rudin put on his girls' halfway point article, saying she's sort of the wild card. You never know what you're going to get out of her on any given night. She could be the best player in the conference one night, or could struggle from the floor, be in foul trouble. I think she's a huge player to watch tonight against this Greenwich offense.
I think she is too, and I think she comes up with a big effort because, I mean, when you're battling for a position like this, it's almost to the point now where, the youth really at this point in the year isn't an excuse anymore. The freshmen are essentially sophomores, and so on up the line. And as you mentioned, Stanford trending up, Greenwich possibly looking at a 3rd consecutive loss. That would be a serious red flag if they were to drop 3 in a row at this point in the season.
And this is not the team you want to have to face, especially at Stanford.
Right. Needing a win, you didn't want to see that.
No, and it's very tough, but this is a time where you have to, almost a must-win game, because you don't want to fall down too low here, especially teetering on being in one of those 7 or 8 seeds right now, because I think everyone agrees, Don, the 2 best teams in the conference are Trumbull and Ridgefield. They've separated themselves. Trumbull, that big win earlier in the year against Ridgefield in their head-to-head matchup, but I wouldn't be surprised if both these teams run the table down the stretch here. And the biggest thing going for both these squads, it's the depth of having 5 very good starting players.
No, that's absolutely true. And as I mentioned, with Trumbull and Ridgefield establishing themselves as the 2 best teams in the conference, you want to avoid having to play both of them at all costs, which means it is crucial that you get yourself into that top half of the bracket because you don't want to have to play Trumbull and Ridgefield back to back, and you don't want to have to play them in the semifinals. If you want that big game, you want to have your big effort for the finals. It'll
be a lot of fun. Good to get girls basketball back on the air. Pre-game is set for 6:50, Don. Tip-off at 7 o'clock. You can see everything, of course, right here at HAN.network or on the HAN Network app, available in the Apple Store and the Google Store. That's going to do it for today. Don, you are off tomorrow. You miss out on our wrestling previews. We get our first wrestling match coming up on the HAN Network tomorrow afternoon.
I'm sorry to miss it, but, duty calls.
I keep Bill Blockson over there. Could be Kevin Coleman. Kevin will be with us tonight, though, as we get set for the girls' 6:50 pregame, 7 o'clock tip-off. We'll see you there from Stanford High on the HAN Network.